Okay, so Ellie was kind enough to put a picture of my main teacher, Lama Yeshe, here. And he used to use a term continuously, as did his main student, Lama Zopa, and even the Lama at the monastery that was the abbot, Lama Lundrup, which was all the time, check up, check up. So it's not a term you're not going to open read in a Buddhist book much, check up, but it's very profound, because what it means is that we need to look inside of ourselves and check what's going on. That's why in the meditation we have this awareness. So things are thrown out quite a bit. Our mind is like a singular thing, so I don't like to use it as much as I say consciousness, kind of like a stream. Every moment our mind is aware of things. So when we're in meditation, we want to be aware. As we're dealing with life right now, as we walk, as we breathe, we're speeding along. We don't know. We don't see what's around us. We don't know what's taking place so often. We pick up little bits and pieces, but I don't know, 90% passes us by. So the idea of a Buddha, which is not a person 2,600 years ago that lived, he became fully awakened. That's what becoming Buddha means, becomes fully awakened. So we are here to wake up, not to go to sleep. So that's why when we do meditation, we want to allow our mindfulness, allow our awareness to begin to open up, to develop, to feel it, so we can begin to feel. So for example, when we're sitting in meditation, we might sit, and if we are scanning our body, we might feel some tension in our body, and we might be able to feel that tension begin to release, that energy release. So we're starting to work with ourselves. We're beginning to work with our energy. We're beginning to work with our minds. We're beginning to work with our body. And so as we do that, the mind consciousness begins to open up, begins to awaken more. So as it is, we sit down and we're sitting inside that meditation, and then all of a sudden, if we're sitting and we begin to become more quiet, because if we've checked, if we really went inside, we begin to see that there's a level of quiet, there's a level of calmness that's always existing in there, but we are ignoring it. That's what the definition of ignorance is. It's ignoring, but even worse, it's knowing wrongly. So we don't know what we are and who we are. So when Lama is saying check up, it means we begin to check up what we are. Back in the way back when, I don't know when it was, 60s or 70s or something, there was a movie where they went inside of a capsule, and they began to go throughout the entire body. So they made the people get smaller, and then they went throughout their body, looking for what's going on inside there. So if we go inside and we look throughout our body, if we understand that mind is consciousness, is awareness, and is changing moment by moment by moment, then we can begin to become, try to become aware of that. So all of a sudden, when somebody says check up or watch your thoughts, we don't know what that is. But when we're sitting very quiet, all of a sudden, like in the bottom of that ocean, where there's a storm brewing up above, but it's calm and clear down there, there's a clarity and a calmness inside of us that's able to see. So when we're becoming aware, all of a sudden, we felt some tightness in our knees, some tightness in our back, but now all of a sudden, we're feeling a more subtle tightness that's there, because we're beginning to feel this is all psychosomatic that we've created throughout, from birth, and I could go way before that, but from birth on to now, we've created these things. That's why before, as I said, and I've said to people before, we do some of these exercises to open up the channels, open up the chakras and the channels throughout the body, because we store stuff inside of us. And the reality is that we think something is there is more real than it really is. So when you go into this little capsule, on this, like was in that movie, and you begin to look around, you're never going to find what you think you are. You're only going to find a bunch of different things, an accumulation of different things that are going on, different movement of physical, of energy, mental energy. But we're not aware of our mental energy. The mental energy, our thinking process, our thoughts, we don't know. We just don't know. We walk around like zombies, basically. We don't really go inside and try to see, is this really me, who I think I am? So basically, the mind, consciousness, its true nature is awareness and clarity. It's clear and knowing. It knows. So it's like that mirror that reflects. So all part of consciousness is also part of what goes on with us physically. So coming in through the ear consciousness or the eye consciousness, what we see, what we hear, what we smell, what we touch, we just are aware of those things. And then on top of that, we begin to create a narrative. We begin to put all this different things. This is this is that, this is good, this is bad. So if you go in and you search for, throughout your entire body or throughout your mind, and find where that person is, if you're really taking a look, you won't be able to find it. So what Lama's talking about, checking up, means that we begin to look, we begin to question, not just take everything for granted that comes up, everything we feel, everything we see, everything we hear. So the fact of the matter is that that we have things that, let's say, for example, there's something that's called obstacles. So we think when we're sitting down and we're meditating that there's obstacles to my meditation. All of a sudden, there's noise over here. Oh, that's an obstacle to my meditation. That's disturbing me. And then we feel something else. Oh, that's an obstacle. It's upsetting my my meditation. So because we think that there's these obstacles which come about throughout our life, everything that happens to us. I'm driving and I get caught at a light. It's an obstacle to getting to where I want to. How do we relate to these things? We think that these things outside are what is going to make everything perfect. So I'll give you an easy example. I was up in the mountains near the base camp of Mount Everest, where one of the, my one teacher, Lama Zopa, in his past life, that's the cave he did meditation in. And so there's a monastery up there, and up there to do retreat. And when you're up there, you're up there sitting in meditation. You don't have highways outside your street. You don't have anything going. There's nothing going on. So you think, oh my God, it should be fantastic. This should be great. You're up here. The problem is, what's the baggage we're carrying with? So whether they're, all of a sudden you're sitting and meditating and a fly lands on your nose and it's like, oh my God, and you get irritated and want to push that away. Or I begin to think, oh, I'm up here in the mountains. Right about now, milkshake sounds really good. So thoughts are coming up, which are distracting. What's it distracting from? What are we being distracted from? We're being distracted from our true nature, from who we are, what we really are. And the more that we find ourselves caught up in the habits that we've created, they have their own energy about them. That's what's karma. That energy formation is karma. It's created. It's made it very difficult. Every time something like this happens, I'm going to have aversion to it. So the three, what's talked about is in Buddhism is the three poisons. The base, the most important one, is the one that's ignorance, which is not knowing, which is knowing wrongly. And based off of that, because who I think I am and what I think I'm experiencing in the outer world is exactly the way I'm experiencing it, then I'm going to spend my day pushing away things that I feel are an irritant, something that's bad, whether it's somebody saying something to me or whatever it might be, or grasping after things that I think are going to, bring me. So this is what we go as like little, like bees, busy bees. We are moving around looking, to move everything around us outside of ourselves. But the reality is that us and the things we're looking at, if we check up, if we look, they exist, but they don't exist the way we think they do. If they exist the way that we think they do, then what we see as being good should always be seen as good for us and should be seen as good for everybody else. But instead, we'll notice that something that we liked for a lot of our life, all of a sudden we don't like anymore. So now I don't have attachment to it, I've got aversion to it. So our mind and its energy grasps after what we think we like and pushes away what we think we don't like. And then there's a third one, which is kind of a fogginess, which just doesn't know. It's just as a non-knowing. It's like being foggy. That's all. I can't really see. I'm not sure what's around me. So I see somebody, but I don't know. I don't know who they are. I don't know if I like them or don't like them. I haven't decided yet. I haven't put the stamp on of this is me and this is them. So by checking inside deeper and deeper, we can begin to see the illusory nature of the world around us, in the sense that it exists, but it doesn't exist in an absolute way. So what does that mean? Wow, that's like winning the lottery. We just won the lottery with that. Why? Because if the key to enjoying myself in this meditation, in my day, depends upon my state of mind, my state of consciousness, whether it's staying within clarity, whether it's seeing something, or is it going to be held? Okay? So if I wake up with something, feeling of depression, the emotion of depression, then I'm depressed. Even the day is sunny, but it doesn't look sunny anymore. So the beauty of checking up, and the beauty especially at later stages, your meditation doesn't have to be formal meditation as you develop on the path. Everything becomes your meditation. But in the early stages, this is our laboratory. You learn to sit with yourself. And when you sit with yourself, a discovery takes place that you actually can sit there with yourself without having to run and put on the TV or put on the radio or read a book. We don't have to distract. So obstacles and distractions come from our mind.
Here's what I found.
Thank you. Sorry. So these things that more or less we feel are distracting us, we've given them, there's two things. There's two extremes: overestimation and underestimation. In overestimation, we think something we like is better than it is, and so that's what we grasp after. And the underestimation is not seeing certain qualities in other things. So you're walking out on a day like today and it's cloudy and temperature feels a little cool, but if you don't have the habit formation of saying, "Oh my God, this is too cold and it's ugly outside," all of a sudden you're going to find the key to, things are not so bad. It doesn't look so bad. If we experience these temperatures today, which when I was taking my dog out, it was 30 some degrees outside. So, okay, 30 some degrees, then that's the overestimation. That's absolutely too cold. Well, later in a few months, when it starts to get 0 and 5 below and 5 above, and we experience it for some days, and then we see, oh, it's shooting up to 30, now all of a sudden, now 30 looks a little different, right? 30 never changed. We changed. Our thoughts changed. So the key to begin to enjoy, things within life. A lot of times people have an experience where they, you go on a vacation and you go to a place which is beautiful in the sense that it's got the, blue ocean and you've got the sand and you're not working, so you're feeling really relaxed. You kind of feel a oneness with the people around you. Everybody that's with you, you got family members, you're not going to like them all the same. Some you like a little better, some you like a little less. But all of a sudden your mind's got space for them. And you can find humor in something that usually you would take the wrong way. You begin to see the beauty of the ocean, of the stand, of nature, because you're getting in touch with your own nature, your inner nature. In Buddhism, on certain levels, they call that Buddha nature. So our pristine nature that exists within us is when we check up and we sit there and we don't get bothered by what's going on around us. We just let everything kind of rise. I think you asked what happened last time. I think last time I talked a little bit about impermanence and change. So you begin to realize everything changes. Everything is changing. When we see things, we overestimate and think this situation is permanent. But the funny thing is that once you sit there, the awareness, the thought that this is pain, this is bad, whatever it might be, is not the same, because there's not even this, you can't find in any particular second where you can grab it where it's the same the next second. Things are changing all the time. There's nothing that stays the same. So the feelings that we have, the situations that we have that arise, we think, oh, it's so terrible outside. But before we know it, it starts to become, the clouds clear up and it's sunny outside, because change is taking place all the time. If we cannot control changing what the weather looks like, we control how we look at it. So we can appreciate, as I said, the 30 degrees looks warm coming from 0. Because it's all dependent. It's not independent, existing by itself, a fixed, permanent thing. It's something that changes as our mind's wisdom begins to waken up. So as we check up, we start to check up deeper. If we sit there with ourselves, and we realize whether we feel something, we feel something in our legs or something in our back. So that's good, we're feeling something. That's awareness. We're awareness of that sensation. But that's what it is, it's energy. We've put on that energy that it's pain. So if we look really close, if we sit there and we take the I out of it, the I that says this is pain, and we just feel the energy, it's our energy. This is our energy. All of a sudden, we don't need to reject it. We can accept it. We're beginning to accept ourselves. So by sitting quietly with the meditation, we take some time, whether we want to take an hour, take 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes, let our mind settle, become aware, and begin to sit with ourselves. This is what opens up our mind. This is what awakens our mind. We begin to, if we don't immediately respond to what our habit formation is, that habit formation, if you look any place inside of your body, inside of your mind, inside of your thoughts, inside of the consciousness that's moving, you will never be able to find that. So that is an awakening. So what happens is that using just the words check up, like Lama would use, or even understanding our nature is clear and knowing, our real nature is Buddha nature. We think our nature is whatever personality this is that I am. This is me, and that's the way I am. I react to this way and that way. And we create that habit formation, and so that energy, moves along and moves along. But if for a moment we sit down and we go beyond our limitations, self-made limitations, and experience, just become aware of that energy that's coming up. There's energy inside of your leg, energy inside of your hips and back. So now you sit there and you just don't think, I'm feeling pain. Just welcome it in. Not grasping after it, but just welcoming. The welcome is like the space. The space, the sky, allows the clouds to come in, arise in the sky, and dissolve back into the sky. But they've nowhere you can find them. They never stay the same. You look at them, they're changing. So you begin to sit, and before it said, okay, that's pain. And so as soon as you label that pain, rather than just energy, your body begins to tighten up on different levels. There's tightening that's going to go on inside your legs or your hips. There's something going on inside there that's going to begin to, why? Because it's fighting it. It's pushing it away. So you're pushing away yourself. This energy is ourselves. So we begin to accept ourselves. We begin to feel this. And we begin to understand that we've created complete confusion. So when we experience things, we don't experience them with wisdom mind, with wisdom consciousness, with pristine awareness. We experience it with this conceptualized habit formation upon our minds that have that energy that comes along with it that makes it very difficult to see it any other way. So the only way to be able to see it is to go into it. Go in, do a biopsy. If you do a biopsy, go in really, look very, very close. All of a sudden, it begins to change. So I love the story about the, that if we were going to go walk outside, and outside the ground, has thorns on it and has rocks or is cold, we go out there. We can't cover the entire earth with leather, but by putting a pair of shoes on, putting leather on our feet, we accomplish the same thing. We cannot change, the weather. Well, some people can change it if they get certain powers and energy. There is some possibility because, that's, if we control our inner elements, you learn to control outer elements. But going beyond that, since we're not trying to change, you can't change the world. What we try to do, we begin to find that key is the change that goes on within us. That all of a sudden, the light goes on, that whatever experiences I was having, I question them. I take a look. If there is no me feeling that I'm feeling this and I just feel that energy, I think that energy might possibly become healing energy too. Because all of a sudden, everything begins to open up, begins to release. So instead of constricting with what goes on, as soon as I have I feel the energy, but this energy throughout all my lifetimes has told me this is pain. But this is something that is what is known is the most important thing, because this is experiential. We need to have experiential knowledge. That's why that checking up means we have to really experience what does checking up really mean. Because if we don't know what that means, if we know what our awakened nature means, what our pure mind means inside there, as I said, it's like better than finding, winning lottery ticket. Because no matter how much you get with a lottery ticket, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be happy. But finding that happiness exists within ourselves, within our being, within our breathing, within our movement of consciousness, within our awareness, we then begin to open up. And because of that experience, it creates change. So everything we perceive, instead of perceiving things through foggy mind, we begin to experience, the world around us with wisdom mind, with mind that knows. So if I say, okay, here I've got a chocolate bar, and none of you have tasted chocolate, I can say, well, it kind of tastes like this, and it kind of tastes like that, and it kind of tastes like this. But you don't know what it is until you taste it yourself. So the importance of tasting it yourself is firsthand experiential knowledge. That knowledge has its own power. It now has weakened up, this network that we've created for ourselves. It's shaken it. So we're no longer being controlled by the habits so much, because we've loosened it. Because all of a sudden we've found open space, where before we thought it was concrete. Now it's open space. Look, even in concrete there's space. There's space always. So when we're sitting, sometimes we get very, very quiet within ourselves. So there's the wind, the energy that flows throughout our body is on gross level, it's on subtle level. So we use type of breathing meditations and others, but eventually the mind and the body, the mind and the wind ride along together. They're never separate. So if we go into quiet states of our own mind, we're also experiencing what's known as wisdom wind, much more subtle energy, that's in there. And in fact, if you're in a very, very quiet space, maybe a doctor would, check and say you're dead because, not picking up any breathing, any of the gross breathing that goes on. So the subtle energy, that exists within ourselves, as we begin to stop going outward so much, begin in a sense becoming inward. The inward journey, in a sense, is one that at a certain point, it's like in, I guess the best thing for me is the visuals, like in Star Wars. They're traveling and all of a sudden they go, let's go, what's that called? Cyber speed? What's the thing called? The one where just go, and they go into a different, zone. I don't think, really myself, I don't think something happened which made them go faster. I think they've just changed. It's just able to change like that. Because what is time? What is time and space? Time is our own relative creation. There's no existing time opposite from us saying, okay, that was the past. That's what I, think about, and this is the future. That's what I dream about. Even the present, by the time you try to become aware of it, it's not the present anymore. So we can't grasp after these things and understand that we use the concept of time for us to be able to function in our daily lives. So we know this is what we break up to be an hour. But an hour doesn't have to be an hour. 3 hours could have been the smallest element, or 15 minutes could have. These are man-made creations. They're not existing something on their own. So the ability to go beyond our expectations, to go beyond our concepts into the wisdom area of our mind is always there. But how do we get there? We don't get there by getting a spaceship and try to go to the moon, go to Mars. We go there by beginning to sit down in the meditation and become aware. Okay, becoming aware. Okay, so I have these feelings. Now I have these kind of grasping. I'm sitting there. I still feel a little bit of anxiety. And because I want to get away from that anxiety, because of that grasping for it, that's the problem. So there's something that's called letting go. Everybody hears the thing, oh, let go, let go. The real letting go is an absence of doing. Because letting go is doing. If we're doing something, if there's activity going on, there's me and there's an activity going on, we're going to have the same problem. But if we don't have a battle with what's coming on, if we're not grasping, fighting, having aversion to to these thoughts that keep coming up, and we just are aware of them, they will settle on their own. Just like the ocean. No matter how big those waves are, eventually they're going to settle back in the ocean. You're not going to be able to differentiate that water that was part of that wave and the water that's in the calm and clear. When we understand that the energy of our mind begins to settle down, and we can begin to see it from a very calm and quiet space, we're going to begin to have that experience, which is going to break up, these moment after moment after moment of recreating over and over again what this is, who I am, what that is. And so that level of checking up means that no matter how far we go inside of ourselves, no matter what we have, so we all have baggage. That's what's happened. We haven't purified ourselves. We haven't cleaned ourselves. Okay, the real meaning of Buddha, besides fully awakened, means fully knowing, but also completely free. So we carry with us, stuff that's guilt. We carry that. We create that guilt. We can let go. We can let go of that guilt. We can let go of these things that have taken place before us because we've become a little bit more compassionate toward ourselves, because we're able to sit there and see that in certain times, in certain situations, my mind did not know, it knew wrong, and so it does certain things. But those things can all be cleaned up. They can all be cleared. We can let go, so that the things that create guilt for us, the things that create anxiety, the things that create fear that we have with us are all a creation of the thinking mind, not our pure awareness. Go beyond the thinking mind into pure awareness, and what happens is that wisdom is like light. The instant we put the light on, darkness disappears. I don't know where it goes, it disappears. The wisdom light inside of us goes on, we experience that, and darkness disappears at that time. And we get a flash of being able to see things in somewhat different way. So the practice of meditation is the one where we begin to sit down, sit with ourselves, and let our feelings, whether they're physical, whether they're mental, thoughts, let them come up, watch them. So we don't know what that means, watch them. That's because we've not been taught this. So if you sit there, your mind knows. Your consciousness knows. It's self-aware. You become aware. Okay, once we're able to start to do that, that begins to loosen these karmic chains that have locked us into why I can't be happy, why I can't be open, why I can't be compassionate. Because once our mind begins to open up, we can then see things in a different way. And so everything else, all other life forms, we see that how they're a part of us in actual fact. Why? Because we finally are letting us, okay, this is my energy in my leg. Well, that's my energy, so why not enjoy it, right? Believe me, that's just energy. It is not pain. That pain is a label that we've put on there. If you check up, you'll see in reality it's not pain. If you check up and it stays pain, well, then you can stay that way. But the truth is that if you really are checking, it's taking an I that's become a conceptual idea of who I am and what this energy is that now says that that's pain. It's tightness. I'm not saying that there's not energy in there and there's not tightness, but it's not necessarily pain. And can that be transmuted? Yes, it can. Can that energy be used? Yes, it can. We don't understand that, but we don't want to push ourselves too far, because we need to have that compassion that understands where we are, and so we take baby steps a little bit, at a time. Because if we try to push beyond what our relative capabilities are, we can't get to our ultimate capabilities of complete openness. We'll push ourselves and it'll become too much for us. So then what does that mean is you start to begin and you have compassion for yourself, and you can see if you need to do something or fix something or change or move. But the fact of the matter is, we don't mix up understanding that although this is our relative condition, it's not our absolute condition. What's our absolute condition? That's what needs to be experienced. So I think that's probably enough for today. Well, it depends if anybody has a question or anything. If not, otherwise we.
I think last time you talked, several times ago, you talked about a wisdom energy too, other than a wisdom mind, which you spoke about today.
Yeah. So wisdom energy. So basically, our energy, which we of course know, or at least we try to talk about as being wind or prana, lung in Tibetan, chi. The chi energy that goes along. When we're very agitated, of course, that energy is very agitated. So our breathing is, we're out of breath. We're, something that bothers us, we become really kind of breathing in a rough way. And so when that happens, our state of mind goes with that rough energy, and that's why it's becoming very, very rough. As we go into the depths of the ocean, into the subtle energy, the most subtle energy, the wisdom energy, which is the wisdom mind, which is the clarity, living at the same time with that same healing pure energy inside of ourselves. That's what begins to arise. Those are, of course, in Buddhist practices, those are what starts to take place within. I mean, it's some of the stuff we were doing before, but it's you start with the Vajrayana tantric practices. So they're more advanced practices that you begin to use your breathing and other different things to open up. And so if we bring our mind to subtlety because we've brought our breath to subtlety, it works. If we bring our breath to subtlety because we brought our mind to subtlety, it works. They're always together. So we've kind of got options. Both ways we can go. Something's confusing for you there, or all of it? Don't be shy if you have a question, go ahead. If you don't,
I don't have any today.
okay, well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.